Who am I? Well, I'm Sue Butler. This is the backyard of my house. My parents moved around a lot. Connecticut, Chicago, moved back to Cambridge when I was 7. I've lived other places. I've lived in England and France and Italy, lived in New York City for a year, in New Mexico for a summer doing honors thesis on public health, and keep coming back to Cambridge. I like it. I like the people, I like the attitudes I find here, and it's home. I'm divorced. I have been since my youngest was about 5, and raised my kids as a single mom. I'm a nurse. I see patients as a psych nurse clinical specialist. I've also got a PhD in experimental psychology, and my dissertation was on utility theory. And I do some research with that. The funding is variable and not great, so nursing supplements my salary, and that's good. I'm someone who cares a lot about the environment. I've worked very hard for many years, being politically active. I was president of Green Decade Cambridge. I was a delegate to the Climate Emergency Action hearings. I'm a member of the Sierra Club Energy Committee and a member of the Greater Boston group of the Sierra Club. I helped found the Home Energy Efficiency Team, and I'm a board member on that. Basically, doing everything I can think of to make real change. When I was a little kid and I went fishing with my father on T Wharf in Boston Harbor, right next to us on the wharf were these 50-gallon drums with a radioactive marker on the side. When I was 7, it was just like, Dad. But as an adult, when I was in my early 20s, I was very concerned about it. Got early energy audits and changed my light bulbs to CFLs in the 70s. Was doing ceramics and stopped doing kiln firings because that meant I was pulling a huge amount of electricity, and I didn't want to do that. It must have been 40 years later. I met a tugboat driver at a lecture he was giving, and I said, you know, when I was a kid, there were these drums on the wharfs, and he said, yeah, you know, they probably got pushed overboard before they were even out of Boston Harbor. And I think 50-gallon steel drums, salt water, rusting. So in frustration, I decided that what I really had to do was look at my own life and try really hard to get my own life as undestructive as possible. There was a state-administered group. It's turned into the Clean Energy Center now. They gave me a small renewables initiative grant to put 4 photovoltaic panels on my roof. And after I'd done that, a year or 2 later, I saved up and applied for a grant with them for Commonwealth Solar Grant for 22 panels, meaning I had a total of 26 panels on my roof, a 5-kilowatt system. I have a building with almost 10,000 square feet in it, and I am now fueling the electricity to pump the standard gas-fired baseboard hot water heaters. I was debating what to do for heat in the house across the street where I used to live, and now rent out. I had 2 old gas forced hot air systems, and the gas-fired furnaces were, one was old and one was ancient, and it kept going. How could I do that? Here I am advocating to get off carbon, and I'm doing it myself. I've got to stop. Someone had told me about that there was a place in New Hampshire that they did geothermal, and I found it on the web. They had Saturday seminars about geo, and I went to one.
Conservation first. Our mantra has always been insulation, sealing, reduction of energy use. The second best investment is geothermal.
And it sounded very sensible to me, and I liked it. It would do heating and air conditioning, heating the domestic hot water. I later learned it also dehumidifies my house. So I investigated. That was the distributor for the heat pump equipment, and decided, okay, I'll do it. So on this 4,000 square foot lot in mid-Cambridge, I got the guy to come and dig a well.
3 different methods of taking heat in and out of the ground. We've been the protagonists with over the years. A standing column well, which represents the trade-off between the two. We design it assuming that we can make a conductive heat transfer.
And now I have 5 or 6 years of contented tenants, and it's worked. And the air conditioning is good, and the heating is good. The efficiency is fantastic.
Lower cost for operation, less maintenance, less trouble, more reliability.
We had a factory in Andover, Massachusetts for about 1974 to 81. There's still some of those that were done in the late 1970s that we're still providing parts for.
Unbelievable that out of the groundwater, you could pull 5 degrees and keep circulating it, and it would be enough heat to heat a house in the middle of winter in January in Cambridge. So then I started investigating doing it here in my house, which is larger and more of a daunting project. There's a side to me that's kind of like, can I do this? Is that okay? Will it work? It's worked over there. I feel like, you know, it's not going to be tolerated somehow. And yet within the city, it's very much supported.
For the city, it's been really important to be leaders, to start first. You know, we haven't asked anybody to do anything that we couldn't do ourselves, but 80% of our carbon is in buildings. So we have a very strong building program in terms of promoting the stretch energy code, you know, being the second in the state to adopt that stretch energy code so that all buildings that were built of a certain size after the date of the adoption of the code would be more efficient and built to a higher standard.
Cambridge is a leader in the country in doing this by promoting geothermal. This project is a wonderful example of how you can take urban dwellings with home furnaces that are fired by oil or gas and convert them to a heat pump. If you do that throughout the state, you'll end up saving about 11% in natural gas consumption in the state, and that's a very big number. People ask, well, what about the electricity that's used to drive the pump?
With geothermal, yes, you do use electricity, but you don't use as much electricity.
You can make electricity out of virtually every fuel. We will always have electricity as that common denominator.
Question is cost. It is a big capital cost.
But you're going to be a wow end customer. And if you are an expensive technology, which compared to all other heating and cooling systems, Geo is.
But a capital cost that where you get tax credits and you get some, right now there's a bill before the legislature that seeks to supply renewable energy credits for thermally generated energy. There's an MIT professor who had an energy series a couple of years ago, and he would introduce the concept that if carbon dioxide were purple, we'd have solved the problem a long time ago. Because you would see the shade of purple increase from 150 to 400 parts per million, and it'd be a dramatic effect. But it's invisible, you can't smell it, you can't taste it, but it has a definite impact.
We got another designation this year as the most livable city in Massachusetts. But people really like the things that come along with sustainability. They like living in a green city, whether they're environmentalists or not. They like the attributes that come along with that.
It's nice to have someone there saying, okay, we're with you. We see your situation, what you're doing, you should keep doing. If I didn't have verification from the city and this kind of support that this is the right kind of sustainable problem solving, I probably wouldn't go forward with it.
I think many religious people have come to understand that, you know, this is a rental. We're supposed to be taking care of the environment. Solar is got an initial capital cost, and then it's free. Heat pumps, there's the initial capital cost, but then it's providing an energy source that is renewable and also ultimately will be more cost effective. So there are good policy reasons and there are good spiritual reasons.
I think there is a huge change happening now. Not enough, not fast enough, but it's a change. The government has not taken responsibility for regulating. It has not acknowledged the severity of the problem.
We really have to look beyond the political stridency. Who cares where it came from? We've got to protect these cities. You know, you can't let politics stand in the way.
The body politic on the left and the right still says, but we're Americans. We're special. That's not the same for us as it is for everybody else. I am a suburban white kid. We have a super tight house, but it's probably bigger than it absolutely needs to be. We recycle all of our glass and metals and plastics. It's all about reality. If I can go and buy that paper cup for a nickel, I'm going to buy it. So I feel like we do a pretty good job, but we're still dirty Americans.
Here I am living in this world. In as much as I can possibly manage not to participate in that economy, that's what I'm trying to do. Self-reliance is like a national character. It's really valuable. It's what built this country.
And I think making our families participate and making them aware, there's that multiplication factor. One person's not going to do it alone.
It's really important for the occupants to care about their green building, and I think that's something that's we've not been, as a country, let's say, that hasn't been like right up there as one of the requirements. It's almost more how quickly do you penetrate, how quickly do you get people to understand what the possibilities are, and that this is not so much about sacrifice as it is about opportunity. But don't forget, never, never, never forget that the best energy, the cleanest energy, the cheapest energy, the most carbon-free energy is the energy you never use at all.
So this will limit the growth of natural gas. Hopefully we won't have these big gas pipelines being constructed, and reduce the need for this economy in Massachusetts to rely on imported fossil fuels, which means exporting our dollars instead of keeping them here.
So I think the idea of making these changes, you know, it's a change from what we have, and it's a change from the things that we're used to doing, but it doesn't mean that the world is coming to any sort of end. I do think that not doing anything creates a different sort of ending, and not one that I think we're all going to be, and particularly our children and grandchildren, are going to be terribly interested in living through.
I think we're closer than people think to having a cleaner energy world.
A lot of times what was asked at the dinner table when he or his 5 brothers and sisters were there, what have you done to make the world better today?